Member of the Speakers Committee. Welcome to the podium, Walter.
Thank you, Julie. Hello, everyone. Our next speaker is someone that I first met when I came here in 2017 and really is a modern Renaissance man. He, as you saw in his bio, he is a man of many talents, an author, an innovator, a teacher, a composer. But the one position that I think he holds that really interests me the most is this idea of futurist. A futurist, as you probably know, is a person that really tries to help us understand the future and engage in interdisciplinary and systems thinking to do that. To me, it's a person that's concerned with 3 P's and a W: the possible, the probable, the preferable, plus wild cards. And really, how do we manage in all of that, in all of those environments? And so without further ado, I introduce Nat, and I also let us know that he has recently had a grandchild. So congratulations, Nat.
Thank you so much, Walter. And thank you so much to the members of this wonderful organization for inviting me. And let's see, is my screen sharing properly?
Yes.
It is? Okay, all right, because it looks like I'm seeing everything, and you shouldn't be seeing everything.
Oh, we see all the slides.
Oh, you are?
Yes.
You're not supposed to be seeing that.
Okay.
So let me see if I can fix that real quickly. All right. There we go. How's that?
That's better. One slide at a time.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. Well, anyway, Walter, thank you so much. And to the members of this great group, let me just ask you a question. And I only have like 20 minutes or so, right? So this is going to be fun for me, magic, I hope. And, you know, one of the questions I get asked all the time as a futurist is, especially and given the last few years, when we think about America, think about the world, we think about what has happened with the pandemic, people will often ask me, and they've done this for many years, ask me, are you optimistic about the future? And if so, why? And so what I'd like to do today is, and my theme today is, it's called Developing Youth Leadership for the Future. And Walter asked me just to walk you through a few things that I'm working with and the University of Louisville is working with, and all of them relate to how we might think about the future as a community. And what I hope to convince you of is that you should also be optimistic for the future, about the future. And let me show you why. And really, it comes from the fact that I get a chance to work with a lot of young people. And that's really the secret to why I remain committed to the notion that the future is going to be better than we think it is, but there are some things that we need to do, okay? There's some things that we need to do. So let me ask you this question first, and that is, where were you last, on March 7th last year? Where were you? Anybody can think about where they might have been. And I suspect that most people are going to say they don't remember where they were on March 7th last year. Well, let me tell you where I was, okay? And let me see if I can get this to do right. Okay, here we go. Good gosh, here we go. This is where I was on March 7th last year. So I created something called Thrivals here in the city of Louisville in a partnership with the University of Louisville, other companies that have supported it. And basically what it would do is, for a whole day, it would introduce young, primarily, not exclusively minority kids, to big ideas. One of the smartest people I've ever met, who is a PhD student in the School of Nursing at the University of Louisville, worked with our team to create a special version of the game Pandemic. And we hosted a tournament on March 7th, and where we had 65 to 70 young people to compete to win a version of Pandemic. And my objective is to build a greater pipeline, thought leadership for younger people. And you can do that by having them to play games. Games is a great way, of educating. So that's why we hosted the tournament. And 2 students, a team from Central High School, the school where Muhammad Ali attended, they were the winners of the tournament. So you saw in that, and here's some other pictures from that. And here's the premise. Of course, as a professor, I've been teaching, you saw my background, an MBA professor. I've been teaching the history of epidemiology as part of my MBA curriculum. Teaching the history of epidemiology, starting 1583, 1453 in London with the outbreak of cholera. But really, as a result of having been teaching epidemiology as part of a sort of a larger MBA education, one of the things that I focused on was how do you get the next generation of young people to be focused on what clearly is going to be a large part of the economy of the United States. And so for a long time, and Walter, of course, knows about this, and some of you who have been partners with me know about this. If you take a look and see what the leadership of the healthcare economy is, it is not representative of the future. So that's one of the key things that you have to think about if you're developing leadership is you have to find a way to get young people involved, and you have to start early. And one of the ways that we did this through this tournament was to have young people to play the game Pandemic. So we had these wonderful partnerships with faculty from the School of Nursing, from the University of Louisville School of Medicine. And then if you look around at the table, you'll see these families all engaged in this conversation, in this game of trade-offs, which is what healthcare is all about. Because it's not just a matter of, a policy, which is policy, of course, but young people have to understand, how do you think about these things? Is it just a matter of that we have 19% of the GDP and we just, turn it over to the private sector or the government sector? There are a lot of things involved in it. But if you want young people to be involved, you've got to get them involved earlier. And so Pandemic, the game, which many of you probably already know, we created our own version of that. And so that Saturday, we had these amazing kids and their families and teachers and faculty from both the College of Medicine, School of Medicine, School of Nursing, College of Business to compete. And there you have Joe Gutman with some students from Central High School. Of course, we invited students from all over the county actually, to play. So we had students from private schools, public schools, whatever, everybody competing. Now, the idea here is you see these students here wearing these special shirts. These three young men right here, along with some of the others whom I'll show you in just a second, this represents the future team. Because although that next day, if you will remember, that's March 7th, the next day the governor closes everything. So we had planned to have a tournament for 200 students from all over the schools. This is part of what Thravels has been about in the past. I'll tell you more about that later. But of course, the pandemic shut everything down, okay? And so let's see here. Okay, let's see here. I got something for her. Okay, great. All right. Is the screen still coming up, everybody?
It's not. You're not showing your slide in the full screen. We're still seeing the slide deck down the left-hand side.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for letting me. Let's see if we can get this straight.
Not a problem. Take your time.
All right. What are you seeing now?
We're still seeing.
Okay, let's see if we can fix this.
There you go. Now hit from beginning.
Hit from, where do you see that?
Left-hand side at the top.
Okay.
Double click it.
All right. Oh, wait, I just
You went too tight. Yeah, right below there.
Right here?
Yes.
Here. This one.
Mm-hmm. From beginning.
Okay, from beginning.
There you go.
You mean to tell me all this great stuff and you're not seeing it? Alyssa, we did this really well before, right?
I know.
Gosh. Okay, let's move right here. Okay, what are you seeing now?
Your slides are changing. They're just not the full screen.
Okay, I'm trying to get that to do the full screen. And gosh, well.
When you double click on from beginning.
Uh-huh.
It's not doing anything. Okay.
Not. Okay, well, there we go. What do we have here? Okay, how's that? Did you get to see the video at all?
No, we heard it.
Oh, you heard it. Okay. Well, this is going to be a challenge for me then. So, and of course we had
we have plenty of time. If it's something you want us to see, we have plenty of time for you. So,
okay. Thank you, Julie. Let me figure this out really quickly here. All right, really quickly. You would never know that we didn't do rehearsal. Okay.
Okay, now you're back to where it's got your main slide and then the next slide coming up on the right. So you're better.
Is that better?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. So can we go there?
Yeah,
would you like to see? Let me get a sense. Do you want to see the video?
With this virus situation, I call to you every day I'm entitled to. I couldn't
Okay.
believe I was missing out on so
All
many.
right, let's just go from here. All right, let's go from here. You didn't get a chance to see the video, but you can hear me now, okay, and you can see the screen.
Yes.
Okay, and you get to see the, all right, Julie, good. I'll just go from here. So you see these young people here, and I wish you could have seen the video, but you'd see the families of young people playing together and with their with parents, with teachers, with faculty, with folks from the School of Medicine, as I said, from the Environment Institute, College of Business. And these young people right here, they have the Game Masters shirts, and these were the leaders of the teams. They were the ones who met weeks and weeks ahead of time to help develop the curriculum for the game that day. This is, of course, the next part of the slide here. You get to see some of the other leadership team. These are all the young people whom, and some of these are faculty, some of these are funders. There's the Dean of the College of Business, Dean Meridian. But what I'm hoping you'll take from this is an effort by the University of Louisville to begin to build thought leadership in the healthcare sector for the future. That's what these folks are representing. So we're competing now for new opportunities to be able to play pandemic, because as you know, and I think everybody understands this, we are in the pandemic now, but we're going to have to begin to develop an ecosystem where these young people here understand how to manage through pandemics of the future. So we've seen one now. We've actually had two in the 21st century, but we can expect that we're going to have more in the future. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, how do we begin to create the next generation of Americans who are going to be fully prepared to participate in our national policy debates on the future of the American economy? That's what drives me. That's what drives my ideas away from being a professor in the business school. But I'm always thinking about that next generation of America. If you look at America, and I think you all understand this, is that this is what America looks like. And these are the kids that, these are not students in my MBA program, but sometimes I certainly hope one day that they will be. But these are students here who are part of the Lincoln Foundation efforts to provide special education, STEM education for young minority students, not exclusively, but mostly minority students. But let me tell you a little bit about now. I want to take you into some specific work that we've been doing over the past few years, and that is with Central High School. So I came to the University of Louisville in 2007. I had the privilege of meeting two great people, Joe Gutman and Laura Rothstein. Laura was the dean of the law school at the time. Joe Gutman, former prosecutor for the city of Louisville, but he had been at Central High School and had started teaching. And we agreed to start teaching a dual college credit course. And you can see here, the idea is to introduce students who would be juniors and seniors to a course that would teach them the foundational concepts of business law, business management, communications, finance, accounting, economics, project management. In other words, take students who have no idea about business, who have who probably have never thought about business, to introduce them into the big concepts of business and give them college credits at the same time. So we'd have some of our best faculty who would teach them organizational behavior. You'd have some folks we work with, Yvonne Smith from One West. We have someone teaching them accounting. We have someone teaching them marketing, someone teaching them economics. And of course, these were all of our best professors who would teach these courses in conjunction with a wonderful faculty at Central High School. And at the end, of course, students would participate in all kinds of team development projects. So this has been successful for several years. Students get college credit. Sometimes they would decide to go to the University of Louisville, but it wasn't necessary. The main thing is introducing students to the basic concepts of business education. So now, one of the things that we did this year was we introduced something called the Yellow Jacket Shark Tank Competition. And this is where students had to develop their own proposals as if they were on television to present a product, be able to develop a marketing campaign, a budget for it, all those basic things, and present it to the judges for not only a grade, but to see if they could win some money. It was just an initial effort. And I want to tell you that we had 4 students who won the contest. One of them developed a product that would a special kind of an electronic socks that would change temperatures for your feet. One student developed an app that you could select, that you could download and will help you do your homework. We had one student who developed a proposal that would, a safety kind of app that would allow students to be safe, especially for women. And then we had one student who actually developed a mental health program and actually operationalized it at Central High School. 4 students, and they all were finalists in the final competition. The next thing that we did this year was we decided, as part of their final project, to have the students for the final exam to participate into the Build Back Better Together program, which was, obviously, we think about what Louisville has been through with the pandemic, with the tragedy that surrounded the Breonna Taylor case. We as a city had an opportunity to redevelop the way we would deploy our resources. So our students were asked to partner with the mayor's office and to write a proposal in which they themselves would write how they thought money should be distributed. Write a convincing proposal. Everything they've learned and throughout our course, use that knowledge and skill to convince a council person to be able to how the money should be spent. And I tell you that, and I would be happy to send some of those essays with you, but we as a community, you would be astounded by the brilliance and the insight, and maybe you wouldn't be, but I'm always thankful for the amazing insights of some of these young people, which is one of the reasons why I remain so hopeful about the future. Their perspectives on how we should prepare our community for the future, they're very different, and they're better, I think, than sometimes what boomers think money should be spent for the future. And one of the other things that comes out of working with students, as many of us do in this community, is you also see the challenges that students are faced with. And that was really clear this year as a result of NTI, because a lot of times the students would be dealing with challenges of wireless at home. They wouldn't have it, but that would not be a reason why they still would not compete. They wouldn't have the best technology, but they are aware of these things, but still they're committed to their own education, and the challenges that they face, especially depending on where they live in the community, are enormous. I'm thinking about, in particular, one student who was not able to participate in the Shark Tank competition. And that's because tragically, that student had been the victim of a gunshot. And you just think about this, a 17-year-old student, we're trying to help them prepare for the future, but they're living in such a situation that they have to live with the possibility of being shot, and in fact was injured, seriously injured. And I say that to you because I think sometimes when we think about students for the future and preparing them, we don't quite understand the totality of the challenges that they're faced with, yet they are absolutely going to be critical for us going into the future. But so if you're interested in, and I tell you, we had one of our brilliant council persons, Keisha Dorsey, to be one of the judges for the Shark Tank competition. And she also got a chance to read some of the essays. I'd be happy to share some of those with you to see some of the brilliance that we have in our young minds. Now, here's something else too that happened at Central High School. And I certainly hope that this will work. I had the chance a few years ago to share the stage with Chris Gardner. And you may know he is the author of the book Pursuit of Happiness. And I'd invited Chris to come to Louisville, to the city of Louisville, and maybe that he would be willing to speak to our students at some time. And of course, he's obviously, he's been portrayed in a film with Will Smith. And so I spoke with the principal at Central High School, Raymond Green, brilliant, absolute brilliant leader, about the possibility of having Chris to do the opening of school in 2019 for Central High School. And but the idea was that they had to look at the film first. Now, of course, the concern for many of the faculty and some of the staff was that, man, how are you going to get these young people to be still for a long time, to sit through a film? And when is that going to be possible? The beginning of school, everybody's going to be restless. But instead, what happened is, and the way Raymond describes it, and I was not there, is that you couldn't hear a pin drop. And I think what we all took from that is sometimes we have expectations for students and they're completely different than what the reality is, that they are actually can do things far more than we sometimes give them credit for. So let's see. So then, of course, the next day, and this is what happened. I want to show this to you. Hopefully this works. Please let me know if it doesn't.
Through these same exact doors that I'm walking through right now, not long ago walked a young man. His name then was Cassius Clay. He became known to the world as Muhammad Ali. And we're going to walk through these doors right now. Peace and power. Boom!
Cassius Clay went to school here at Central High School. We're fortunate enough to be a steward of this legacy.
All right, now this part of the building, how long has this part of the building been here now?
1952.
So Ali walked right through here.
Ali walked right through here.
Greatness came this way.
Yes, sir, every day.
Oh my
4
God.
years, that's right.
Give it up for Chris Corner! Good morning, Central! I'd like to talk to you today specifically about the 3 most important decisions that I ever made in my life, all of which I made at your age or younger. At some point, somebody's gonna give you all an opportunity. What are you gonna do with it? Take it. Don't just take it, value it. Whenever I am asked, whatever made you think that you could accomplish half of the things that you have in your life, I can hear my mother's voice. My mother saying to me every day, son, you could do or be anything. That was permission to dream.
You most definitely gotta believe.
You gotta believe, and most importantly, you gotta believe in you. Whatever you're going to do with your life, you should seek to become the best at it. My job is to let you know that you can, and I love my job.
What continuously motivated you even when you felt like you was at your lowest point?
I knew I could rise. What motivates me now? I know I can rise. I'm not doing anything that you guys cannot do. The only reason I came here today was to make sure that you know that you could.
Yes, sir.
All right?
Yes, sir.
You know what Muhammad Ali would say if he was here right now? He would say, through the fire, through the pain, baby steps in the ring, while all about you are being the same, be the player, not the game.
Well, I think you can see that that was like a really special day for the students at Central High School. But not only did we have students from Central, we also had students from the West End Academy, the W.E.B. Du Bois Academy. And so it was an example of how a business school, the public schools, and all of our other academies can come together to help inspire the next generation of thought leadership. Young people seeing themselves through obviously someone as successful as Chris Gardner, but seeing themselves as a role model, him being a role model, and others as well. So let me turn to another initiative that I've been privileged to be a part of. And this deals with how do you develop thought leadership in the philanthropic community. I came to the University of Louisville, as I said, in 2007, but when I was at Wake Forest University, I was on the board of directors of a major foundation. And one of the things that they allow you to do after you've served for a number of years is they'll give you $25,000 to start something. Well, what I started in Winston-Salem was a youth philanthropic group, philanthropy group. But the idea was that students needed to, and if they were going to be a part of the boards in the future, philanthropic boards, they needed to learn how to give away money. They needed to learn how to raise money. So surprise, when I got here, thank God, here we had something started at in the city of Louisville with Candy Medina, and you see the other members of her team, and I was invited to be a part of it. And one of your Rotarians, Claire Arnold, a few years ago, suggested that I consider, as part of the Youth Philanthropy Council, including it as create a course that would be for college credit. So now over the years now, several years now, we have several students. Generally, there are some 30 students, and some of you who are in this audience have already been partners with LYPC. But we take 30 students, about 10 of those will get college credit. So the students are learning not only how to give away money, but they're learning the history of philanthropy. They're learning about all the major social, political, economic, technological trends that are involved in the philanthropic, the history of philanthropy in our country, what the challenges are, the trade-offs, and they have to obviously read extensively. And one of the two major assignments, and I'll talk about just one of them, is a book assigned called Upstream Thinking, or actually it's called Upstream, The Quest to Solve the Problems Before They Happen by Dan Heath. And so students are challenged to examine how do we create, of course, young people will be very good at this, thinking about the problems that we have downstream, how do you solve them upstream, which is exactly what young people would be thinking about, and we boomers should spend more time thinking about it as well. And I just want to say to you that you would be just stunned by the thoughtfulness of some of these students. And they're from Louisville. They come from all of the various schools. And I've been a privilege, I've been obviously a faculty director. I've been privileged to teach with them, as well as some of you who are in this community. But I interviewed Maddie this past week and listened to her talk about her dream. She's been a volunteer at the Home for the Innocents. She's making a career in global health. And to listen at her talk about the importance of social equity and justice and equality, and how she's prepared herself for it, and how this community has helped, and how LYPC has helped. And she's got a presidential scholarship at the University of Miami. Then there's Jessica, who is a student at Manual High School, wrote this brilliant essay. And again, speaking about what needs to happen in our community, not just in Louisville, what needs to happen in the country, and how she sees herself as a part of the group that can change what philanthropy looks like and what the role of the public-private partnership is. She's going to Boston University. Shakira, student at Manual, who's gotten a scholarship to go to, an option to go to the University of Chicago or Yale University. She too, talking about global equity, social equity, social justice, really on their front of mind, as well as was Caroline, who is in the arts. She's a student at Sacred Heart, who has an opportunity to go to the SCAD school in Savannah. But each one of these students, and I haven't finished interviewing them all, but I've read all their essays, you would be just absolutely hopeful about the future when you see what some of the adults, part of the LYPC, are doing with these students, and what these students themselves, what they see is the change that we need to make in our own community. And why do they feel this strong? Why do they themselves feel strongly about it? It's a reason to be hopeful about the future. Now, I know I don't have very much longer to go, but I want to talk about these other initiatives that the University of Louisville is a part of. And that is, we have something at the University of Louisville called the Digital Transformation Center. It was created by our extraordinary president, Dr. Neely Bendapudi. And that is, how do we coordinate and sort of put our arms around all of the major transformations that are underway in terms of technology? Talking about working with Google, Microsoft, Adobe, IBM. All of these big companies have technologies that obviously are a part of the transformation of our economy. And our university, of course, is right in the midst of that. Well, part of what we're doing is, in talking about the College of Business as well as the university in general, we're partnering with the Lincoln Foundation, and this is something that we've done before. We've had summer management programs in before, during where students will study for 3 or 4 weeks business education. We'd have leaders from the business community who will be guest speakers. I can think about Chuck Denny, a lot of you who've been a part of it. But again, students are studying with us in partnership with the Lincoln Foundation on the college campus at the University of Louisville. Last year, for the first time, these students got college credit. But the whole point of me talking about it now is that this year, and this is as a result of my work along with the work of so many others and GLI, we're going to be launching the Digital Transformation Summer Magnet Program for students with the Lincoln Foundation. We're trying to locate and serve 100 Black students who are going to learn some fundamentals about Google Analytics, digital technology. I mean, not just digital technology, we already understand that, but going to be able to receive some specific kinds of technical skills from the Google Academy, from Microsoft, from Adobe. So in 2 weeks, and probably it's going to happen sometimes in July, because obviously everything's been impacted by the pandemic, but we will have, and this is the important key thing to take away here, is our city of Louisville has got to prepare our own students for the future. And that's why we're narrowly focusing in on the next generation of what America looks like. And this is really, really critical, I think, for an organization like Rotary, all of our organizations, all of our institutions. We have got to focus in on that next generation of what America looks like. Otherwise, we don't have a shot as a country. Because as you know, the US is going to become minority white in 2045. But if you're talking about under the age of 18, that's already happened. And the challenge that we're faced with is we are going to have to balance these generations, the interest of the boomers versus the interest of the next generation of young Americans. The final thing I want to mention is that in partnership with the Yum Corporation, Geraldine Green, who's the head of the foundation there, and others, we've been working, our university has been working with how do you unlock and how do you build social capital through education entrepreneurship. And of course, I'll wrap this up because I think everybody knows about the initiative by Yum to spend $100 million over the next 5 years. Our university has been a part, fortunately, to be able to recipient of a Yum Scholars $1 million grant program, which is going to support an initiative that we've already been working on. And you can see some of the schools there, Shawnee and Central, of where we intend to provide business education, kind of a specific three kinds of coursework that would lead to degrees in business here at the University of Louisville. And we're going to get started. We've already beta tested it for the last 2.5, 3 years. And this fall, we start officially with this new grant, which is just now being announced and is really a big deal for the Yum Corporation, a big deal for the University of Louisville. So where do we go from here as I wrap it up? As I said earlier, what are you optimistic about and where do we go from here? I remain optimistic about the future. And I'm optimistic about the future because I get a chance to spend a time with a lot of young people. And I can tell you they're enormously bright. But they do need to know, do we really want them to succeed? And if we really want them to succeed, we're going to have to put a lot more energy around them. We're going to have to prepare them because if you look and see what the competition is, you look and see what the country of China is doing with this next generation, we really don't have a chance. We really don't have an option. We really do have to prepare this next generation of young people. And I'm happy now to take some questions and comments from you. So thank you so much.
Wow, that was really inspiring, and I appreciate all the good work you're doing along with others, Dr. Nat, really impressive. So Rotarians, any questions for him?
You mean to tell me I got a group that has just silenced everybody? I can't believe
it was
that.
really inspiring. You gave us a lot of information that was new to many of us. I know a lot of it was new to me. Walter has a good question. Walter, why don't you open it up?
I'm sorry that I didn't have the video to show you, but I'll send it to you. Okay, guys?
Yeah, we can put it in our newsletter for our Sparks this next week. Happy to do that.
This is Eric.
Who's this?
Yeah, I'll start with the first question. So you presented a lot of information for us to digest. What is the next best step? How can we help you in what you're doing? What advice would you give us?
Well, thank you so much, Walter, for that. Of course, we always need intellectual capital. Okay. and let me do it this way, because an obvious thing is to say, send money. Money would be great, but see, that's not really, of course we need money, but that's really, I would rather have something else. What I need you to help me do is this: convince baby boomers that they need to move off the center of the stage and just quit being the center of every public policy debate and start thinking about, what does America look like in the future, and how can we get behind what America looks like? See, we need in every aspect. Let's say, for example, when we think about kindergarten, why doesn't the state of the Commonwealth support kids every day in kindergarten? Why aren't kids in kindergarten or in elementary school and high school have textbooks paid for? We need to make it easier for our own American students to succeed. Second thing is, America, we've got to convince these next generation that they should trust you with the American dream. If we want them to carry the American dream on, you've got to do things to convince them. And I need your help on that. And so we've got to find ways to get closer to them. So I need you could be volunteers in this summer management program. I have this idea of students learning negotiations. Think about that, high school students learning negotiations. Students learning how to play poker so that they understand about, those of you who just caught what I just said when I said about poker, right? It's a fabulous way to walk into understanding the future, of understanding statistics. You have a lot of gifts. Larry, you guys have done a lot of things. I would love to bring you in so you can be a part of these students at Central, all of the schools. You can be a part, you can bring your mind. And of course, you can be a part of the pandemic tournaments. You can support us with finances. That's great. But it's not just the money. It is your intellectual, your experiences. Chris, if you saw and heard some of the essays from the students that I've seen, you would be optimistic too, right? You wouldn't be worried about what America would be. You'd be thinking about, man, look, all I need to do is get with these students. So if let's say, for example, Rotary decided, I'm going to partner with one particular student. We're going to have 100 students this summer in the Summer Academy, right? So you can decide, hey, I want to work with this one student. Fantastic. So that would be one way that I'd love to have your support. If you want to support us financially, that's great. But I didn't really come to ask for money. But of course, I'm used to doing it. I'm a business professor. So the pandemic tournament costs money, and we're in competition to win big grants. You can help us with that. Even if you don't, we're going to win anyway, right? We're going to win anyway. But I love to have you, your intellectual, your experience. I love to have Graham. I love to have what he knows. I want to have what Tracy knows. I want to have what Ken Grossman knows. I want to have what Amy Luttrell knows, when she does this fabulous stuff at Goodwill, right? And you think about what Goodwill does, where there are a whole bunch of people early on that could support Goodwill. And if you all could begin thinking about this earlier in the curve, earlier. It's too late to wait till students are in the junior, seniors, high school. It's too late. They need to understand about the power of themselves and the power of the American dream when they're in 6 years old. Sixth grade, 7th grade. We've got to get earlier. And when we talk about the future of the healthcare economy, which is, almost 19% of GDP, it's unsustainable. And if we don't have them involved in solving for this, we're done. We're done. So everything that we're doing, and I remember the 3D presentation that was done earlier about junior achievement. What a great program. I was in junior achievement too. Of 69. Think about how long ago that was, right? But everything that we can do to get young people, all of our energy devoted to young people. I'm sorry to say that boomers, we need to move over.
Tracy, can you unmute please and ask your question?
Yeah, I had a question. Actually, you partially answered it. I'm Larry Sloan. And my point was that I'm like you. Whenever I get around young people, like when we're mentoring the students or youth at my church, I always get to feeling really good about the future because there's so many idealistic, great ideas that come out of these kids. So I'm with that. And I would love to have something to do with what you're talking about with your program. So keep me on your list, okay?
Thank you, Larry. You'll hear from me, guaranteed. I'm so sorry you didn't see the video. I just, if I had been in person.
Well, if you could share that video with Alyssa, she can send a link to it out to us.
I will do it. And you guys did see the video with Chris Gardner, right?
Oh, that was really moving.
Yeah, that was great.
Yes.
And you know what? He's wanted to do that across the state of Kentucky. Again, he's still doing this, like 1,000 schools. Again, that's somebody committed to dreaming, Steve, right? Steve Eggers. This is about dreaming, right? Permission to dream. We got to get these next generation of young people to say, hey, and by the way, I didn't tell you this, but I was hoping you were going to ask me. If you take a look and see what China is doing with its young people, okay, which I was prepared for this. I was hoping somebody was I was going to show you the slides. You would go, wait a minute. We should all, as Americans, understand that China and artificial intelligence is planning on winning. And there's about 190 million in this next generation of young Chinese born after 1990. And I pay attention to this, obviously, because I teach the future. But you should see what their camps look like in the summer. They have thousands of young people in the summer with laptops, thousands every 6 weeks, And one of the professors, one of the books that I teach from it by Kai-Fu Lee, China, AI Superpowers, China, Silicon Valley, and the New World Order, which I recommend, everybody should read. And Kai-Fu Lee is just absolutely brilliant computer scientist, but he describes how competitive this next generation of young Chinese are. So I'm not talking about nationalism. I'm really talking about America. And, they have a combination of thinking about what the role of the state is. They have a combination of what they think about the market should be. And you combine that with artificial intelligence, and you think about how much energy we waste. And then our most valuable resource, and I'm not talking about Indiana, Ohio, South Carolina, I'm just talking about Louisville. And that's where our energy ought to be. Let's focus in on how we can do with what resources we have 5 years from now. In the 5 programs that I'm working on, if we have new leadership from the Black community, young Black leadership leading healthcare discussions, young Black leadership working on economic education, 5 years from now, and they've brought 500 young people, Louisville, the city, will be changed. But we've got to work with the next generation of young Louisvillians, people that we don't hear about. We generally hear a very narrow aspect of what Black community has to offer. And it's distorted.
Tracy has a quick question, Nat, for you, if that's
Tracy.
okay.
Yeah, given your point about global economic competition, China and other countries, are there any components of any of these programs, and I'm thinking of the Young Grant in particular, seeing as how they have global operations, that include international travel? And not so much sightseeing travel, but travel to go and see what those economies and what businesses and what the culture is like, as you just adequately described about China.
Tracy, we do that on an MBA level. I lead, MBA students all the time. On an undergraduate level, our students go study abroad on an undergraduate level, but not these high school kids. Now, I have worked with a program. I developed something called the Thrival Institute. That's another place with another school district in California that actually did have students studying in Thailand, which was the whole idea that you were getting there. But we haven't gotten there yet. But that would be, and obviously this time, with the pandemic, it's going to be some difficulties. But your point is well taken. That's the kind of way that's the kind of thinking that transforms young people, transforms a community. You get 100 kids who've gone and studied some other country, they come back and they appreciate America. They appreciate the institutions. They go, wow, man, it's good to have an economy where the courts are reliable, where, you know, where you can actually have redress, where you think about, you see, there's so many things that we take for granted in America that makes us singularly important and be possibly more competitive in.
Did everybody else freeze or just Nat? Just Nat?
I think.
Just Nat, I think.
Okay, maybe he'll be coming back.
Yeah, just Nat. Yeah, well, youth exchange and Rotary, which is not in this district, but some of us are trying to get it going again, is getting ready to restart, but they won't restart until the summer of 2022. But that certainly is an opportunity for kids to go abroad from this area. And we need to get back in that. So we're working on that.
And there are a lot of opportunities for people to volunteer and help redevelop that program here now. If you're interested in contributing to having high school students having an opportunity to spend some serious time in another country, please talk to Larry. Please talk to me. We need your skills and capabilities.
Right.
While we're waiting for Nat to come back on the line, I just wanted to also mention Claire Arnold, who's a Rotarian, who does a lot of the good work that he was mentioning, and just give a big shout out to her as well. He mentioned her, but just want to make sure everyone saw her on the screen. So, Buddy, did you have something?
Yes, Interact and Rotaract, of course, are local and state and national Rotary programs, which I've been heavily involved in over the years. With Hurstburn Sunrise Rotary, and even here before I retired, and it's been handed off, but those need to be stronger, I believe, to involve all youth in these kinds of things, and also the Rotary values, which are exactly what he was talking about.
Good.
Julie, regarding your notice of Claire Arnold, she is our representative on the district committee that oversees granting global grant scholarships for a year of graduate study in another country for graduates of a Western Kentucky university or for residents of Western Kentucky who study elsewhere. And not very many people, not very many of those know about this great opportunity for a year of outstanding scholarship and study abroad. We need to make that more clearly available to more of the public.
Yeah.
Yes, we've been really lucky to have some U of L students in recent years receive that award, and so that's really quite an opportunity. So, well, I noticed the time, and I don't see Nat.
I was just going to say, by the way, as an afterthought, our speaker mentioned the Central High School. Local Rotary Club in the 90s had a Interact Club at the Central High School because it's located downtown, and it was very successful.
That's good to know. I appreciate that. We'll have to follow up on that and bring it back to see what we can do. And I don't see Nat joining the call again. So Walter, thank you for arranging such a dynamic and energizing speaker for us all. I think we're all energized by what he had to share, and I look forward to the good work. So thank you, everybody. And we'll get with Nat and share our appreciation for his speaking with us today. And everyone stay safe, and we are adjourned.
Thank you.